I just remember like pregnant, just sitting in the library all day with my luggages and my kids. They called the DCF worker and he's telling me, well, you need to call somebody to see if they can get these kids for the night until we can get you in the shelter. And he's saying, you can get your kids to the system, you're gonna get them right back. And I'm like, sir, I cannot do that. I cannot do that.
How long have you been out here?
Here at the hotel that I stay at, I've been here like from January. So basically from I left the shelter.
Mm.
And when I left the shelter, I didn't have a job. That's the main reason of them telling you have to leave, inconsistent jobs. I've had like 3 different jobs when I was in the shelter, but it wasn't consistent. So that's why I got a discharge date. And when I got a discharge date, initially, they want to address where you're going, or they're gonna call DCF for your kid.
Uh-huh.
And I didn't have an address, and so the day before I left, which is I think that was the 31st of December, the day before, I was scrambling around in the same area, just trying to look for somewhere for me and my kids to go. And I went to Transitions. I don't know if you heard about Transitions.
No.
Transition is like a job agency.
Okay.
They help with jobs and so forth. And that's where I've been going job searching.
Mm-hmm.
And they would hand me like, little job referrals. And I just went to them and I was like pleading to them like the next day I would not have anywhere to go with my kids. And they found this hotel. I guess they knew the owner. And they reached out to her and they paid for the room from January to February.
They paid for it.
Yes.
Wow.
They paid for it from January to February. And they let me know in February, like, I guess they're not going to pay for it anymore. I don't know what happened between the owner and them. And in the midst of February, that's when I found my job. And I started to pay for the room myself. Even though it takes away my whole paycheck, but I still pay for it because my kids have to go to school. I have to go to work. Yeah, I'm trying to make it happen.
You were at the shelter at which one?
Chapman North.
Chapman. With all 4 kids?
Yes.
How was that like? What was that environment?
I wouldn't say like it was bad.
Bad?
It wasn't bad,
wasn't
but
bad?
I wouldn't like complain or anything, but it was a few things that was, a little concerning.
Yeah.
Whereas the family side was really close to the man's side. It's like, I had this incident where once me and my kids were in the dorm and I had a friend that I made. She was in her room. We just came from down at dinner because after dinner we would sit outside and then we would go upstairs, get the kids ready for bed or whatever. And I was like in the first door in the dorm and she was in the last door in the dorm. And this single guy, he walked in there while I'm taking off my shirt. And I just did not know what to do but scream because he just was standing there looking at me and my kids. And you can't lock the doors or any of that. So
I thought Chapman was an all-woman shelter.
no.
It's not.
No.
Huh. What am I thinking about then? Is it
That's Lotus House.
Lotus House. Lotus House is an
Yes.
I mean, yeah, I'm assuming with co-ed shelter, things can sometimes get a little bit weird. Yeah. How long were you there for?
I was there for basically a year.
Okay.
Basically a year.
And then before that, what led to this situation?
So basically I stayed in Miami Gardens. I worked at Boston Market at the time. This is basically 2022, 2023-ish. I worked at Boston Market and my landlord, because I was renting at the back of the house, basically.
Okay.
And he just let me know my kids went to the Bahamas. They came back, and he just let me know like he's not gonna be leasing to me again because it's too many kids. And I was just trying to ask him to like cooperate with me until I do find something. And he was like, no, he can't do it. He already has like a what do you call it, like a potential person that wants to. So here I am once again, just like I don't know what to do, and I'm early on in pregnancy as well.
What?
I'm early on in pregnancy as well. During this time, I'm like about 5 months or so, and
With
as
your
he tell
fourth one, you had three living with you. Then you had your
yes,
fourth.
and as he's telling me like he is nothing he can really do, I'm like okay. So my last day at work, I come home, and that's when he was like, "Okay, I'm gonna give you this week, and after this week, you're gonna have to go." So then I tried to stay with this lady I knew, but then she was like, she can't do it. It's her brother's house, and a lot of other stuff. So we're on the streets. We're on the streets in Miami Gardens at the library, the public library, and I just remember like, sorry, pregnant, just sitting in the library all day with my luggages and my kids. And it's time for the library to close. And the lady, she walked up to me. She said, "You're okay?" And I was like, "Yeah." And she was like, "Okay." And then she went about her way. And we're now the library is closed. We're sitting outside. The floor is really hard. My kids, they're kind of getting aggravated. They're complaining. And I'm just like really stressed out. So as I walked, I think I was walking the checkers, and it's this. It was a nurse. This is about 10, 11 o'clock at night. It was a nurse, and she stopped and she was like, "Mom, you okay?" And I'm like, "No, Mom, we don't have nowhere to go." And she was like, "Oh, my daughter just got off from work. She worked at Popeyes, and I guess she had a bunch of chicken." She was like, "You can feed you and your kids this." And she was like, "You guys have anything to drink or whatever?" So I said, "No, Mom." And she said, I coming right back, stay right there. So I sat at the tables in the front of the checkers. And she came back from Wawa, and she bought us drinks, food, those sandwiches, water. So as I got it from her, whatever, so she was like, a friend of mine's work at the shelter. I'm gonna go home. She said she stayed up the street. She said I'm gonna go home. I'm gonna call her and I can come right back to you. She said, "Where you gonna be?" I said at the library. So as me and my kids walked back with all the bags at the library, and we sat down and we started to eat the food, that's when the police came. Yeah, the police came and they were like, "Ma'am, what are you doing out here?" And I explained the situation. They were like, "You can't be out here with these kids." And I'm like, you know, I would have never been out here if I had somewhere to go with the kids. And they took us to this police station, and they called the DCF worker. It took the worker about, I would say, 2 hours. This is like 2 o'clock in the morning. He got there, and he's calling shelters, and they're like, they don't have no beds for the family. And he's telling me, "Well, you need to call somebody to see if they can get these kids for the night until we can get you in the shelter." And I'm just saying in my head, "Lord, please." And he's saying, "You can give your kids to the system. You're gonna get them right back." And I'm like, "Sir, I cannot do that. I cannot do that." And he kept just saying, like, "Well, you have nobody to call. You're gonna have to give these kids up to the system until you can figure out." And so the lady that I knew in Miami Gardens, I was calling her from 2 o'clock in the morning, just asking her, "Could my kids just go to your house?" Because this is on a Friday. I was asking her, "Can my kids go to your house just until they find me a shelter?" And she was saying, "Oh no, I can't do it. I told you that's my brother's house. We can't have no kids there." Like, Lord have mercy. And it was like 6 o'clock in the morning, I think it was. And this the lady, I guess, at the Miami police station, the Miami Gardens police station, she's the head of the domestic violence, and she just She just looked at me and she said, "Give me 1 second. Let me put my stuff upstairs. I'm coming right back." And she did come back downstairs. She came back with blankets. And she was like, "No, no, you don't have to worry. I'm gonna help her." And the DCF worker, he left. He said he was coming back, and I guess they went out and got my kids some breakfast, toothbrushes, hygiene stuff. And whilst I was upstairs, they were calling everywhere until they got in contact with the green shirts. And then the green shirts, they have put me at a motel. I think it's called Julia Motel. That's on Flagler.
Hmm.
And that's where I was. I would say for the remainder of my pregnancy. So all of this happened around September 2023.
Okay, so about a year and a half.
Yeah.
You got kicked out of your home
Hmm.
around September 2023,
This was August
August,
initially, the
and
end of
then
August around my birthday, which is the 31st.
in a month you were already in a hotel. They put you up in
Yeah.
a hotel. Did they pay for that hotel?
The green shirts, with Chapman, when they don't have the space, they
Hmm.
place you in that motel.
Okay.
And I was there for like, I would say 5 to 6 months because I had the baby in January on the 5th. And shortly after that, I would say the 21st, I was at the housing shelter.
Would you say you got lucky?
Yeah.
I think you met a lot of good people
Yes,
in
I did.
your journey. It could have been a lot worse. I think
Right?
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes God places the right people in our path, right?
Right.
Um, Pregnant with 3 kids. What was it like for you when your landlord tells you you have to go
Um,
with three
it was
kids,
it
with
was
one on the way?
scary. It was scary because it was not like I had someone to lean on.
You know,
Um, I didn't have anyone to lean on. It was like I was in that situation by myself. Um, I remember one time I reached out, and but the guy was pregnant at the time, and it was like he did not want to ask his parents. He just did not want to put his pride aside, and that's just when I knew like it was just me. It was just me in that moment, and I was so afraid. Like I did not know what to do. I didn't know where to start, and I was just praying that God would send somebody. It was like so much. I called the shelters myself when I first ended up in this situation, and I just felt hopeless because they were like, "No, we don't have any space for the family of your size." Oh my Lord. It was, and I had just stopped working as well. Like, once the market closed down, so it was like it felt like a dead end for me.
how old are your kids?
My kids are 12, 10, 9, and 1.
And are the other three from the same parent?
No, they're from a different parent.
Every single one's from a different parent?
No, the first three are different, and the last one is different.
Oh, so two different parents. Okay.
Yes,
And did you ever reach out to the parent of the first three?
yes, and I just expressed to him how you know I wanted to because my kids had initially just came from the Bahamas for the summer, and I expressed to him how I wanted to send them back, until I. But it was like the things that they went through in the Bahamas is the reason why I kept them with me as well. You know, the father didn't have them in school, didn't put them in school, and then one of my sons is autistic. The 9-year-old, he's autistic. There's no resources back there, so I just felt the need to like keep my kids with me.
Yeah. Sounds like you're a good mom.
Yeah, autism is not easy. It's a really hard thing, and
Is it severe autism?
yeah, stage 3. He's just not really aggressive, but the clapping, the squeezing, the screaming, all of
Yeah.
that. Yes.
Yeah, I wouldn't imagine it being easy I mean, even if you were by yourself, without the three kids, without being pregnant, even if it was just you, I'm sure it would have been a very tough
Yeah.
journey to go through. But add four kids to the mix, and it's you have to be very strong,
Strong.
a
Yes.
very strong woman. So, can you talk to me a little bit about your experience after? Well, your experience in the shelter. You told me it was fine.
Yeah. Um, it was not something that was really bad, but you have some staff that were really nasty.
Yeah.
My son, he's autistic. The doors cannot lock.
Mm.
So he would run outside, and every time he would run outside, I would get a write up. Every time he would run outside, I would get a write up. And I remember there was this one. She was just rude. The way she talks, um, just the way they handle people. She was rude. Things she would say, yeah. You have one or two that's really like that. They have no compassion. They don't empathize with. But overall, it was okay. The staff, I have some that actually dealt with my kids. The after school program.
Yeah.
Really, really, really great people. Um, but I wish they would operate better though, the shelter, and
In what way?
like in the terms of your stay. You know, I feel like as a person that was trying like me, it's not like I wasn't looking for a job. Sorry, it wasn't like I just was sitting around. It was just like, okay, well, you only have this amount of money saved. That's not enough. You have to go
What would that matter?
because they're saying like, how are we gonna be able to get you housing? And you only work this job. You work a $13 an hour job, and you only have this amount of money saved. How are we supposed to get you housing? You know, stuff like that.
But they see that you're trying, and
Hmm.
they still kick you out.
Right.
Mm. Did you see that there were people who weren't trying as hard as you were, but stayed in the system?
Yeah.
Yeah. Hmm.
Yes.
Why do you think that is?
I really don't know. You know, I wouldn't say more complex situations because that can't be it, right?
I don't see any more complex than a single mom of four.
Yeah.
Seems
But
pretty,
I
unless you're
really don't
disabled,
see
maybe.
some persons they weren't really disabled. I don't know.
Say that again?
I don't think it has to do with disabled either.
Hmm.
Because it was a lady there that I met, and she was there for a year and a few months when I came,
Hmm.
and she finally got it. She did not have a job, and when she told me she finally got a job, I was so happy for her. And as soon as she got her job, she had moved. It was a month into her job, she had moved.
Good. Good for her.
Regardless, I was happy for persons, to know like they made it out of there
Hmm.
into their own dwelling.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That helps you motivate yourself a little bit,
yeah.
right? In any of this journey that you went through, did you ever feel like I'm about to give up
Yes, recently.
recently?
Yes,
But recently you've been here in the hotel,
yes.
so it hasn't gotten any easier.
No.
What struggles are you dealing with now?
Um, I started to work, and I'm working part time,
Hmm.
so basically 4 days. And I renewed my food stamps, and it's like they basically took the whole thing away.
Who did?
They with food stamps, it's like they took the whole thing away. They narrowed me from 536 to $33,
What?
and they said because I work.
Okay. How much money are you making?
Well, I make $12 an hour
$12 an hour.
plus tips, and that brings me home about $700 a week.
Okay. And what's your rent at the hotel?
Um, well, through the week
Uh
is
huh.
$100.
Okay.
On Friday, Saturday, it goes to 150.
Pay $100 a day.
Yeah.
So there was your whole paycheck.
Yes.
Did you write a letter? Did you talk to anybody?
Recently,
And I'm talking about
um,
the food stamps situation.
with the food stamps, well, I reached out to them twice,
Uh huh.
and I was asking like, could it be recalculated because I don't understand how. So I'm just waiting to hear back. I recently did this. I think this was Wednesday. I just reached out to them before I went to work.
Mm-hmm.
I reached out to them and it's like, I'm not understanding.
Yeah.
Um, and with my money that I had saved from the shelter, I haven't really touched it, and that was about like 3,700.
Mm-hmm.
And I tried to apply for an apartment in Opalaka with Nadlin, and as I go to sign the lease, they tell me, oh, you have an 1850 balance. I'm like 1815 balance, and they say yeah because that's first, and the 37 is a double security. So I'm like, why am I being charged a double security? And they let me know because my credit and the amount of kids. So that's like another pushback on something that I was trying to, get done.
I've had a lot of conversations with people, and for example, I had a conversation with a lady a couple of months ago. She's about 70 years old.
Hmm.
She had some issues in the shelter. They kicked her out.
Right.
And in a lot of these conversations, I ask myself, do they just look at a report and they make a decision? Do they go investigate? Do they go see what each person's situation is? I don't think that they do, because a lot, like for you, for example, okay, she's making money now. She's making 500 in food stamps. We're going to reduce that to 33. That doesn't make a lot of sense. That doesn't make any sense. They're not looking into your situation. Okay, she's making money, but it's all going to the living expenses. She has no money left over. It makes no sense that they're going to take away your food stamps.
Yeah. With the shelter, I don't think like they really thoroughly investigate anything. I think they just are so non-tolerant. Like they just kick people. I've seen many people, you know, be kicked out for no reason.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have a disagreement with the staff. Yeah, they
Fine.
put you outside in the middle of the night.
Why? I'm yet to go inside of a shelter to talk to any employees. I would assume as a power thing. I feel more powerful than you.
Yes.
I see you as a homeless person. You don't mean much.
Mm-hmm.
Not my thoughts. I'm assuming that's what they think. And
Yeah, in
whatever.
certain situations, that's how you feel.
Yeah.
You feel like they don't empathize with you. They just see you as a homeless person.
Hmm.
Yeah, they see you as a person, a woman with a bunch of kids in a shelter. That's how they see you. And it mainly be the women that treat you that kind of way. You understand? You would think a woman would be more, heart to heart,
Yeah.
but it's not really like that. It's the way they talk. It's
So you've met some good people along your way,
yes, I have. Thank God.
and you've also met some bad ones.
Yes.
And would you say that the bad people that you've met are the ones in a position that are supposed to be helping you?
Yeah.
Like those in the shelters, for example?
Yeah. They do have the position for greater help.
When you said that you felt like giving up recently, what took you out of that?
Um, my kids, especially my preteen. Yeah. She just looks at me. She says, I always get emotional when I talk about that too. She says, "Mommy, we're gonna move in our place soon." You know, and she prays. She prays in the front of me. She says, "You don't have to say anything. I'm gonna pray."
It's beautiful.
Yeah, like the soul is so pure. And she, I don't cry in the front of them. I go in the shower and I
Yeah.
cry, but she knows when I've been crying because she just comes to me. She said, "Mommy, it's gonna be okay." we're gonna move in our house and you're gonna cook us some food from home. Yeah. That's all she's waiting on.
Well, you should know that you're setting a great example for your kids. And that,
Yeah.
that little girl who's 12 and she's seeing that her mom is as strong as you are.
Yeah.
Because to go through everything that you did and still be that person for your kids, that strong person for your kids, I'm sure they're gonna grow up to be as strong as you are. Very,
Yes.
very good values, and you should feel proud of that at least. That you're setting a good example for your kids.
Yeah.
What are your goals now? What are you trying to do?
My goals are, stability. I just recently took my driver's test, because I haven't had a car. So
Yeah,
yes.
it's good.
So those are my goals. My main goal is stability for my kids.
Yeah. What's your way to get there? How are you trying to do that?
Um, I got my job. I'm trying to save, but it's really hard. You know, I'm looking into, a second job. So stuff like that.
Yeah. Yeah, like I've told you before we started this, the biggest misconception that people have about homeless people, and I wouldn't consider you homeless. You're not. You have
Really on the streets, yeah.
you have your place to stay, but you were homeless at one point. You were living in a shelter.
Yes.
Um, you're not lazy. You're
No.
out there trying to get ahead,
Yeah.
and I think that's one of the biggest misconceptions that people have about people in your situation. That they're fine. They're okay being there. They don't want to get ahead in life. And I found that to be very far from the truth, especially with somebody in your situation who's has been battling for the past 3 years to get ahead.
Yeah.
And all you need is an opportunity, right?
Yes.